Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl as we continue our Dwarven Mountain Holds faction focus deep dive. We're now on part 2 of the special category of unit, so let's dive in and see what the dwarves have to offer. First up are the Slayers. Now, for those that watched the character episode of this video with the Demon Slayer, they'll know that I'm not the biggest fan of Slayers, but they do have excellent leadership. They got low movement. I kind of feel they got low attacks and initiative over what I think they kind of should have. So regular infantry as well, 25 mil by 25, unit size of 5+, and they come with hand weapons. Now they can boost their attacks if they take that additional hand weapon, or they can take great weapons. Now, any number of models can be upgraded to Giant Slayers, so you can have a mix of these of the Slayers and Giant Slayers. But a Giant Slayer is 7 points per model more, and will always be in the front rank. He gains +1 weapon skill, +1 strength, +1 initiative, and +1 attack. So Giant Slayer is quite nice, but you are paying a premium for them. But they will always be in the front rank, so they will always be the ones getting the main attack. So could be an interesting play if you do want Slayers, do like Slayers, to do a nice mix and work out the most efficient way of doing that, depending on your frontage and number of ranks. They can take a standard bearer and a musician, and may take 50 points of standard runes. So, special rules then. They have open order rather than closed order. Hatred magic resistance of -2, which is nice. Resolute, they've got Death Blow, which is if they get slain, they do a Strength 3 AP -1 hit to the unit that killed them. Immune to Psychology, which is nice. They're not going to be affected by fear, panic, terror, but they can't flee as a charge reaction, which makes sense as a Slayer. So they have the Loner ability, so that means they can't be Army General and can't join a unit without a special rule. What that's actually really going to mean for these guys is that the Demon Slayer and Dragon Slayer can join them. Motley Crew, which allows models in the unit to have different weapons and armor. So some can have additional hand weapons, some can have great weapon, but really allows the the different types of Slayer to be in the same unit. They have the Slayer ability, so they always wound on a 4+, regardless of the target. Now, if you think about the Dwarven strength, where they sit, you're going to be really looking to start to get the benefit of that when you're on toughness sort of 5 and above. So you start thinking about monstrous infantry, cavalry, monsters, that kind of thing. Maybe some chariots. That's where you're going to get the most value for them. Unbreakable. So when they lose a round of combat, they don't take a break test. They just automatically give ground. But that fits also with their heroes and lords. And they also have Fight Me, which is the Giant Slayer only who can issue and accept challenges the same as a character. So, comments-wise, as I said before, not a huge fan of the Slayer aesthetic. That's nothing to do with their performance. That's just a personal thing. There's no doubt that they're a solid damage-dealing unit, especially with the mix of Giant Slayers who will be in the front rank. Right, they're going to put some damage out. It is worth considering the role you need the Slayers to fulfill, however. Do you want that extra hand weapon? So you want to go for, you're really targeting enemies with, normal sort of toughness, going for more attacks, trying to chop down as many models as possible? Or do you really want the great weapons to go for those higher toughness units? And you can mix for a targeted role, will usually normally get better results. So you can put a mix in there, but if you go for all the same, then you can go, I'm aiming this unit to try and take these enemy units out. And if you're going for the great weapons, you go, right, I'm after these high toughness models, and you can kind of direct your wig and you'll get the most efficiency out of it for that. Lack of durability is the glaring weakness, however, right? They've got low movement, especially weak to ranged attacks and spells, no armor save, no ward save, and they're completely reliant on being toughness 4. So keeping them alive is going to be the biggest challenge with these guys. There's different things you can do. You've got a Battle Standard Bearer who could give them a 6+ ward save in shooting, for example. But the lack of armor is a major challenge for them. Standard runes I consider, again, trying to keep them cheap. I don't tend to splash out on really expensive runes across the board. preferring bodies on the board instead. That's just how I like to play. Rune of Battle for that +1 combat result point, though, I think is good value for points. Now, next up is one of the units which I think is one of the best in the army list. I think it's great. It's got good movement, good toughness, wounds, and leadership, only with the low initiative. It's Monstrous Cavalry. Base size is 50 by 50, and it can come in a unit size of 1 to 6. So this is the Dwarf Gyrocopter. Equipment-wise, it comes with a hand weapon, it comes with a steam gun, which is a strength 3, AP -1 breath weapon, and it has an armoured fuselage, which is classed as full plate armour, so it has a 4+ armour save. So you have options for the Brimstone gun. This is my personal favourite. A range of 18 inches, strength 5, AP -2, dwarf crafted in case it is standing and shooting, I guess, in the being charged. Flaming attacks, multiple shots, D3 +1, and quick shot. So that's pretty nice. You also have the option of the clatter gun. That's got a bit more range 24, but you do lose the strength because you go to strength 4, AP -1, but with armor bane 1. Dwarf crafted again. Move and shoot is a nice thing with this one. Multiple shots, D6, so you're going to do a few more shots there, and also quick shot. But overall, Brimstone gun is the one that I prefer the most, kind of fits the role that I want these guys to do. So, special rules then for gyrocopters, right? They got fly 9, which is a reasonable move. It's a reasonable move. Hatred and magic resistance as normal, but they got dive bomb. So once per game, dive bomb an enemy unit that is not engaged in combat, move over the enemy unit in the movement phase, and that enemy unit suffers D6 strength 3 hits, AP -1 for each model in the unit. So if you've got 3 of these in a unit, which I think is a good size for a gyrocopter unit, without going too heavy on the points, that's 3d6 strength 3 hits, AP -1. That can wreck a unit. Each roll of 1, however, for the number of hits is a misfired bomb and does cause 1 wound to the gyrocopter unit. So that is something to be careful of. So use it only when you need to, but it's only a once per game thing. Now these guys can fire and flee as a charge reaction. That is actually quite nice. They also have impact hits. So if they do charge, they get D3 impact hits caused when the unit charges more than 3 inches. These are caused at initiative 10, so they're first things to take place, and they automatically hit using the strength of the model. So they may adopt skirmish formation. They got swift stride, so maximum charge range increased by 3 inches and plus D6 to charge, flee, or pursuit rolls. And then Vanguard, after deployment, may make a normal move but not march. Now, I think that's really nice because making that early move out to a flank or something, getting them in a position where they can get some nice shots off early, but with enough movement, they can probably avoid all but the longest range war machines, but certainly stay out of range of most of that missile infantry until they're really needed. So overall, I really like gyrocopters. They provide much needed mobility to the dwarf faction. As a minimum, I always try and fit at least 3 into an army list, or even more depending on how you like to play. They got good toughness, good wounds, a decent armor save, so they're relatively durable. I mean, they're not the best in combat, but if you've got a unit that's already engaged with one of yours, shoving these guys into a flank for 3d3 impact hits is going to be no bad thing, and could really help out a unit that's maybe struggling a little bit. So particularly if they're in combat, you're not shooting them. Dive bomb attack does lack the strength, so it's best used on those sort of core infantry units, but in a number of hits, something like Empire Halberdiers, for example, or Bretonnian men at arms, you're going to absolutely wreck those guys. I personally always upgrade to the Brimstone or the Clatter gun. I really like the Brimstone gun, as I said. Reasonable range, good strength, damage, multiple shots. Just pick the one that suits the role you need in the army. For me, having that AP -2 and that higher strength kind of fulfills a role of going after those maybe those slightly tougher units or heavily armored units like knights and that sort of thing. The default would be the clatter gun, even at the higher points cost due to the move and shoot. If that's kind of your default, you don't have a specific role you're trying to achieve within your army list. Okay, and next up, which is next to the Iron Breakers, another one of my sort of favourite infantry on foot units. So Iron Breakers and these guys, absolutely solid, love them. Good weapon skill leadership, low movement attacks initiative. I kind of feel they're kind of lacking in attacks for what they are. They're heavy infantry, 25mm base size, unit size of 5+. Equipment, hand weapons. They have great hammers, which are strength +2, AP -2, armor bane, magical attacks, requires 2 hands, and they have heavy armor. So they've only got heavy armor, so not quite as durable. But notice the great hammers do not have strike last, so that's really interesting. They do have the option to take shields, so they can get down to a 4+ armor save, and they can have a full command group. But they're getting that, strength +2, AP -2, so they can get to AP -4 on 6s to wound, and the magical attacks is nice. Just note though that if you are taking shields, that those great hammers require 2 hands, so you've got to think about when you're actually going to get to use those shields, i.e. If you're being shot. Is it worth the points? They can be upgraded with Drilled, which is to free redress the ranks, and the march within 8 inches, and they could also be upgraded with Veteran, which is the reroll failed leadership test. They have pretty good leadership, so how much value is that? And they may have up to 75 points of standard runes, which is the highest number of points for standard runes outside of a battle standard bearer. So, Royal Champion can also take 25 points of weapon runes and talismanic runes. I also think the models look really cool. Right, Hammerers then. So, close order, they got Gromril weapons. So, hand weapons AP -1, so that's not going to apply to those great hammers, so just be aware of that. Hatred, Orcs and Goblins, Magic Resistance 1, Resolute. Now, they got Royal Guard. So, 1 unit of Hammerers for every King or Thane. Each model can accept challenges the same as a character if there's a King or Thane in the unit. So basically, if you've got your King or Thane in a unit of Hammerers, you can pretty much avoid the challenges in most cases by choosing one of your Hammerers to take it if you don't want to fight that character. And if a character's challenging you, it's probably because he's pretty sure he can beat you. He's got some, pretty saucy magic items that he's going after. So that's a nice thing. So unless he can force the challenge, like with an Oath Stone, then this is a good thing. Stoic Defenders as well. So in a turn in which this unit is charged, they gain +1 to initiative and attacks. Now, they don't have the highest initiative anyway, and if they're being charged, the enemy's getting initiative bonus, but so are you, so there might be a chance, but the main thing is getting that additional attack. So actually, in a lot of cases, these guys getting charged, they get that additional attack is really nice. The downside being the durability of them, how many are going to be left after that charge, so it depends what is charging you. They do have Shield Wall though, so once per game the unit can choose to give ground rather than fall back in good order. And they also have Stubborn, so when we looked at the King, for example, having Stubborn, he will get to keep that ability because he joins a unit that also has Stubborn. So first break test will automatically fall back in good order instead. So even though Hammerers are the most expensive Dwarf infantry for points per model, I always like to take 1 unit, as I nearly always have a King or a Thane, nearly always. I would generally be looking to put the King in this unit. I do prefer to upgrade the unit to have Drilled rather than give them shields, because I think the shields are of limited value because their main weapon requires, or their great weapon requires 2 hands, and Shield Wall is only a once per game thing. The Great Hammers are an excellent weapon. They do not always strike last, and they're hitting at Strength 6, AP -2 with Armor Bane 2. So that's really great at dealing with tough infantry and cavalry, and can even make monsters think twice with that Strength 6. So, you need some pretty high toughness and some pretty good armor to really be thinking about you're going to survive a lot of attacks from these guys. The lack of multiple wounds damage, however, is a vulnerability. So against monstrous infantry, cavalry that have those multiple wounds, that's going to be a problem. And heavy armor with no shield on a low mobility unit makes this very much a damage dealing unit to complement your anvils of Longbeards and Ironbreakers. So you really don't want to be leading the charge with these guys. And while it's good for this unit to get charged, to get that initiative and attacks, you're still probably better off letting your Ironbreakers take the charge and then charge in with your hammerers afterwards. It's mitigated somewhat, say, with the +1 initiative and +1 attack, but are you going to get the real benefit from that? So standard runes, I would consider Master Rune of Hesitation, definitely. So enemy units charging the front arc do not count as charging for weapon bonus and special rules. I think that's really important for this unit. And if you've got a battle standard bearer in this unit, then I'd put the Master Rune of Grungni on him. That gives them the 5+ ward save. And then other units within 6 inches get a 6+ ward save against wounds in the shooting phase. It's expensive. It's pretty much one of the most expensive standard runes there. But giving this unit a 5+ ward save if your battle standard bearers in there really helps out with their durability. So 5+ armor, 5+ ward save. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. So hammerers. I really like the hammerers. I think they've got good value. Well, there you go, ladies and gents. That brings us to the end of this episode. That was part 2 of the special units. We've got part 3 to come. That will wrap up the special category in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember, all the comments that I've made on all the units are personal to how I play and build my Dwarven armies. Everyone does it differently, but hopefully this was useful for some of you out there at least. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If it wasn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below, and let me know your thoughts on these units as well. In particular, I'd be interested to know what you guys think of hammerers, how good you think they are and how useful. And if you want to see more content, please hit that subscribe button. It's free for you to do. It takes seconds for you to do. It's a huge deal for me, so thank you for that in advance, and thank you to all those who have already subscribed. You've been watching The Ghost Owl. Tune back in for the last part of the special category.